A man who is no stranger to the Observer, consumer advocate, Mr. Trevor Hosten. Pleasant good evening to you, Trevor.
A wonderful good evening to you as usual. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now, a lot is going on. I mean, we have a symposium on crime. There's a lot taking place in many of our communities. People who are saying, listen, it's time to take back our country, take back our communities. We're encountering criminal behavior, unlike we've seen in the past. I mean, people who are simply coming into your homes, invading your space, and believing that is their God-given right to take from you what you have worked and sacrificed for. But how did we get here? I wanted this evening take a look at our culture and see exactly how did we get here and how much of this has to do with the economics of greed. And because economists believe that people contribute to the greater good by focusing solely on personal gain. The belief that greed is necessary for markets to flourish more than likely reflects our ability to justify selfish motivations than true economic wisdom. What say you on this?
Greed always takes a debilitating turn on the socio-economic fabric of a country. And I think one of the major causes you ask as to how we got like this is because of greed. People who are very wealthy, living in their mansions, they ignore the huts of the poor, and they think that all that they have or they feel that they have earned is for themselves. There's nobody sharing. We have a lot of retired multi-millionaires, Mikey, and they can combine and put maybe a little total $40-50 million together and then go to government and say, we want you to match this to $100 million. Let us, as retired businessmen and entrepreneurs who have been very successful, let us go out there now and get the youth involved in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship gives us the ability to control our lives, to feel a sense of community, to feel a sense of need. But in the existing circumstances we have here now, it's they against us. And to exacerbate this situation, guns did not reach to 600 murders where we are right now. It started off when I was a young man, 1 a year, 2 a year, and so on. And then in the late 80s, 90s, the drug trade and so on, it just multiplied itself tremendously. But guess what? None of the governments we have had during that period saw it fit to lock down the borders. The borders are porous. None of them saw it fit to realize this is going to have some severe consequences on the economy, whereas the sight of citizens are targeted every day. They're afraid to venture out. They're afraid to go across the street. They're afraid to go and dine. They're afraid to go and spend their money outside. It's a serious thing. But guess what? While we are suffering, the politicians that we elected to protect us, one said it is not his job to protect us. And the politicians who we have elected to protect us, they have all the security at their disposal. They may have security guards at their home 24/7. They may have entourage with security guards however often, and they ignore the plight of the poor. And Mikey, we can go on and on. There's nothing new in solving crime, you know. We have to go back to the same old complaints consumers and citizens have been complaining about over and over and over to say, okay, this is a way forward. But everybody's bringing up the same solution because there are no other solution. It's just that somebody who has the option of changing things is comfortable. They live, if only they can see what we see and feel what we feel, we might get some different
but Trevor, with all due respect, I mean, you're talking about a system that rewards you for basically hoarding, getting what you believe is your greater piece of the market. I mean, this is not about philanthropy. This is not about helping. But doesn't that create a sort of social imbalance? I mean, where's the equilibrium there? If it is that I have everything, and on one side there are people who are suffering who don't have, and I mean, this happens all over the world. But there has to be some social imbalance where you realize that you're living in a fool's paradise. All is well with you here, but at some point in time, that social cancer, that problem of crime will end up on your doorstep, regardless of how much money you have, how much privilege you have, and how much social status you have. You yourself will have to deal with that head on at some given time.
You are quite right. You're very accurate on point. In a democratic system as we enjoy, you are allowed to flourish as much as you want. But guess who are causing you to flourish? It is the poor man, you know. The poor people are the far greater spenders than the wealthy. I think the wealthy wouldn't shop here. They will go away, jump on a plane, go away first class and shop and then come back home. But so it is left to the conscience, which is a great task of the wealth earner, to share what he has so that he can live in peace and comfort. It is foolish of them to think that because of their wealth, they could obligate themselves from the population to the point where they don't care. And they don't feel they have any sense of responsibility, if even to country, if not to individual, at least to country, to say, okay, let me give back something to the community, to this broad section of our community, mainly the Africans and the East Indians, who have supported us and kept us in business. When you look at the 1% and 2% in this country, Mike, they are only 1% and 2%. They can't get rich on their own. So they depend on the other 98, 99% of the masses who, beyond however you want to look at it practically, who comprises the Indian and the African population that keeps them in business. And they have to now come forward and put a plan together and say, listen, you will not believe the power of the economy, boy. Economy is a powerful thing, you know.
Yeah,
we could have been the Dubai of the Caribbean, and our leaders who have the vision to do that. That would alleviate crime.
Yeah, but that takes away from the module that they're accustomed to. You can put on a T-shirt and go to a political rally. You can put on a T-shirt and go to some political meeting. You can mobilize. You can go out there. But that in itself, politically, is someone coming in at at an entry level, a lower entry level. But the people who don't put on the T-shirts, the people who are not out there mobilizing, they simply let their checkbook talk for them. And they buy their way into whatever. And they don't just finance one side. But at some point in time, others who are looking on and observing what is taking place may say, listen, I'm fed up. Now, if it is that they're not intellectually inclined or academically inclined to understand how this social imbalance takes place, where it is that there are people who believe that greed allows markets to flourish, is more likely a reflection of the ability of us as humans to justify our selfish motivations. We justify that. That's our logic. What I'm doing is the right thing. You know, it's happening all over. But at some point in time, that bubble is going to burst. There's so much information out there. People are looking on and saying, I've had enough. I want what is mine because you have everything.
And it's going to burst inevitably with severe consequences. Consequences to families, consequences to the economy. And there is where leadership steps in. There is where government can direct the path as gentle as possible and say, listen, let us change our paradigm of doing business, of earning money, of not giving, of not sharing, of not supporting downtrodden communities. You see? And we tired complain, Mike. We kind of getting lost for excuses and reasons as to why now, when the solutions are so simple. The solutions are inevitably simple, and there are politicians that we elect who just not taking it seriously. They can go on a platform and talk and rile up the crowd and rile up the masses and blame somebody else. But they of themselves, they are not for sport. Yeah,
but all good and well. It seems as though we simply skim over many of these facts when these anti-crime reports come out. I'm reading something here now from veteran journalist Ken Alley, where he did a piece called CARICOM Clueless on Crime. And this is what he said. Everything discussed at the CARICOM talks was scrutinized by the Professor Selwyn Ryan Committee 10 years ago. The expert Ryan team made detailed recommendations which were generally ignored by the authorities. The committee called for integrated governance, a social contract that espouses poverty eradication, adequate housing, an improved education system, family support, health and wellness, and enriching leisure and creative activities. Is this just all wishful thinking? I mean, if this is laid out in a report that is at least 10 years old, and we're hearing it being repeated time and time again, that there are things that has to be done in order for us to get a handle on this crime situation, why is this element, this social element, as far as the imbalance that is taking place, never highlighted or never ventured into to try to bring about some sort of solution? Why?
The complaints I have against our administration is not limited here. It goes across the Caribbean borders wholehandedly. And they have every single Caribbean leader since independence has failed their people. Every Caribbean island is struggling. And when I say struggling, I mean it takes its toll on the economy because the economy is so weak. The leaders don't have the vision to be the catalyst for change to improve the economic situation. And they have not locked down their borders, and inevitably crime has taken its toll, affecting the economy even greatly, affecting the psyche of the people. And they, as leaders, would form a committee and then get a report and then investigate and form a next committee to form a next committee and put it on the shelf. So it's just using up taxpayers' funds on a cycle. And I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but this conference that we have had here always may appear to be a step in the right direction. I am not optimistic of that changes are going to happen because the mindset of our leaders across the spectrum of the Caribbean is not creative, is not visionary. It's just that they enrich themselves as leaders and they see their citizens struggling and struggling just to survive every day. And if they are party faithful, they get a house after waiting 20, 25 years. It's a lot of inconsistencies in the management structure of our leaders in the Caribbean. And I really don't expect much from this crime symposium that they have had here. I think Jack Warner had one when he was Minister of Security some years back. I think Bashir Pandey had one as Prime Minister. And it has changed, okay, but guess what? It has changed for the worse. We need a whole new kind of youthful, young people now who have different ideas. And if I may pronounce the word, then the oligarchs we have leading us into failure. We are being led into failure in terms of the economy that they overlook, they don't pay attention to, and of course, in terms of crime that it has brought to our door.
Yeah, but in order for any of this to become a reality, we're talking about the fact that the same oligarchy must be willing to give up something.
They're not. You asked the magical question. Are they willing to? Sometimes we have to do not what we desire to do, but what we are forced to do. And I've let that hold. I've let that stand its ground. Yes, sometimes we have to engage force to bring about righteousness. And it's not righteousness when one conglomerate is making billions of dollars off the masses and basically they may give you something, 25 football jerseys that you have to beg them for, or sponsor an ad to do something you have to beg them for, and they reluctantly acquiesce and say, okay, give it. You understand?
Yeah.
I for my consumers group some years ago put a half-page ad in papers. A friend called me, congratulating me. He's an entrepreneur, congratulating me, and so on and so on. So we were running short on cash. I called him back a few weeks after. I said, listen, XYZ, I'm doing a half-page ad. It cost us what? At that time was $1,900. Can you sponsor a half-page ad? He said, yeah. Come on down to my office. Come on down. Went down to his office on Wrightson Road. And all the formalities introduced me to the accountant and so on. And then the accountant gave me an envelope. Gone in the car, check for $200. So you know what I'm saying? And this is something that is flourishing. But I don't know, it's greed. At the end of the day, it's greed, and the way they see themselves without any vision as to how far their reach can go, they limit their reach to themselves.
Yeah, because their system, Trevor, is basically, I mean, they understand their system, they have full control over it. I mean, the privileges that they would have, there are people in this country, because of who they are, the bank would say, you know what, forget about the mortgage. Because there are people who are willing to pay just to live next door to you, to have bragging rights about living in the same community with you. Now, they have that type of privilege. There are people who get a moratorium from the bank, and we spoke about this before. Listen, here's $5 million. You don't have to pay any interest for the next 60 months, which is about 5 years. You know, you pay nothing on it, so you can take it, you can turn it over, you can build your business, and people are looking on. I mean, when you have an administration that would tell you, listen, we want to give you money. We want to give you money. This is the model. We want to give you money. You're one of us. You've written checks. You've helped us. So we want to give you money. Before you even commit to purchasing that piece of property, they're giving you the commitment that once you build, we are going to rent it out. You're going to have rental payments coming in from taxpayers. I mean, and what is the rest of us supposed to do? Just look on and just say, okay, that's acceptable, and this there's no equity across the social board, and accept that? I mean, really?
Really, that's how it's played. That's how it's played. We need a governmental administration that is focused on the development of the people and not of any one sector, any one group of family, and multiply the wealth, let the wealth go across the board. Because the only solution we have, microcrime, we can talk all we want. The only solution we have to crime is entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurship provides the economic tools for individuals to develop themselves. And listen to me, what our bankers never paid attention to, or our leaders never paid attention to, is something called the multiplier effect. When you have one man off the street, let's say he's in the printing business, he's just printing, but he has to buy his raw materials. These are what you call the multiplier effect. You have to buy his ink, you have to buy his stationery, you have to buy his paper. And each one of these people that he is supporting other people in a non-ending cycle of abundance. But when we don't pay that attention to it, well, we end up where we end up right now, where people are afraid to go on. I'm afraid to leave my house after 6. I want to go into the gym. My gym is 24/7, and I love going to the gym when I come home, take an hour or two nap, leave by 11, 12, 1 in the morning, go to my gym. I'm scared to do that now. I'm scared, like many other people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's painful. It's very painful.
It's very painful.
Beyond what the politicians are seeing and saying, it is very painful.
Yeah,
and what we feel.
And the economics of greed is not going to help the situation whatsoever. It can no longer be about somebody hoarding and saying, this is my God-given right, I'm entitled to this. And at the end of the day, everyone else just simply has to live here and be at the mercy of a system that is simply not working. Closing comments, go right ahead.
We need vision, or rather visionary leadership. And my solutions to ending crime will be to give a grant of a gun amnesty. Buy back all the guns on the street at such a price. Because listen to me, you're paying a much, much higher price than what you're going to pay to buy back all the guns on the street right now. Buy back some guns as much as possible and give the holder of those dangerous ammunition enough capital to get into business. Maybe coach them, some kind of stuff. That is one way of getting us to a state of avoiding all these killings, because over 95% of these killings are done by guns. You see? And get on an economic expansion drive, diversifying the economy, get the banks to establish a small business unit, and there are reasons why they are not doing that. And all of these little things, one by one, will bring a sense of belonging, a sense of attachment, a sense of feeling, a sense that I am part of the economic process of my country.
Thank you so much, Trevor. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.